Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'll be doing recaps of reality shows like the 90-Day Fiancé franchise and Love is Blind. If you're interested in that, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please be sure to also check out my other videos and playlists. In this video, I'll be recapping Happily Ever After, Season 9, Episode 17. This episode was super long, so I'll be breaking it into two parts. In this video, I'll be covering Jasmine, Matt, and Gino, as well as Darcey and Georgi. Look for part 2 where I'll be covering the Florida gang and Brandon and Julia, which I should be putting out in another day or two. So we'll start off with Jasmine and Matt. They're heading to a baby class, and the caption notes that she's 37 weeks pregnant. In his confessional, Matt says he's completely freaked out that he's somehow a father, and how will he know how to do things like putting a baby to sleep? This just sounds so wrong, and I hope he gets it together as a father soon. The instructor talks about how the baby comes down head first and then rotates. Matt makes the baby class all about him by making frequent remarks, and it would be annoying to have him and Jasmine in the class always taking it over. Also, why is he looking at the camera like that? In her confessional, Jasmine says she wants a natural, unmedicated birth, and she's hoping that Matt can understand how unbearable the pain will be. She asks him to imagine if a coconut was coming out of his D and how that would feel. The instructor has them do a pressing down exercise, and Jasmine is pressing her body down on a yoga ball, and Matt is massaging her from behind. She takes advantage of this moment to seemingly do an ad for her OF, and she moans and talks about how she likes it rough. You can see her classmates are appalled. The instructor then asks for Jasmine to get in a hands and knees position and for Matt to be at her hips. She says often with unmedicated births, babies are born with the mother being in a hands and knees position, and the partner must reach down and catch the baby from behind. So of course this explicit position involves moaning and more of what looks like OF ads. The instructor says the partner passes the baby through the mom's legs, and how this helps the mom first see the baby and bond with it. Jasmine starts acting all teary-eyed and stroking her prop baby. Then she's doting on the baby and hugging and kissing it and generally acting a fool. We cut to Gino, who's driving to see a lawyer. Gino says this lawyer helped with his first divorce 12 years ago. The lawyer asks how this divorce will be compared to the last one. Gino says it will be ugly and that Jasmine has a demon in her. He talks in his confessional about his first wife and how they mostly got along but drifted apart in the end. He tells the lawyer he and Jasmine have been married about 2 years, but they only lived together about 10 months before she cheated on him and he kicked her out of the house. The lawyer's ears perk up at this and he seems like, oh, well, this will help the case. But then Gino adds that they did agree to an open marriage, and the lawyer's face drops. Gino says they only agreed that Jasmine would see Matt for 2 hours a day. At this point, the lawyer looks pretty over it. He asks whose idea the open marriage was, and Gino says it was Jasmine's idea. He says when he looks back, he feels like he was used for a green card, and says a few months ago he reported to her for immigration fraud. I was surprised he said that was done a few months ago, since I thought it just happened. The lawyer looks at Gino like, bitch, what? In his confessional, Gino says he's not letting go of the immigration thing. He says he got her green card and she left, and he'd be happy if she got deported, and he wants her to feel the pain that he's felt. He explains to the lawyer how he reported her to immigration and how he submitted it twice to make sure it went through. He says the second time he submitted it, he updated it to show she was pregnant. The lawyer says he can't speak on immigration, but that under Michigan law, when you're married and a child is born, you're presumed to be the father. Gino looks destroyed by this news. The lawyer says Gino has a legal and financial obligation to the child. He explains Gino would be responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars in child support if he doesn't take action. Back with Jasmine and Matt, the instructor wraps up the class, and Jasmine asks Matt about the part where he has to catch the baby from behind and pass it to her like a football player. He jokes that he'll bite the umbilical cord. She takes offense at this and schools him on how he needs to step up. So they just hang out in the classroom having an argument. They cut to Jasmine and Matt doing a selfie video. It's 1 a.m. and her water broke and she's bleeding, and she says they had to call the midwife. In the car on the way to the birth center, Jasmine says she doesn't want to give birth in the car, and Matt is trying to keep her calm. In his confessional, Matt says he wonders if it was a mistake to go to the birth center rather than the hospital, because what if something goes wrong? Jasmine is having frequent contractions and is worried, but she says each contraction brings her closer to meeting her daughter. They arrive at the birth center, and even though I thought they were in a rush, they take a few minutes to film another selfie video in the car. They then show Jasmine with the midwife getting ready to give birth, and they move her to a tub. Matt says this part makes him feel powerless because he can't do anything. They show her in the tub screaming in pain, and the midwives are helping her. She's in the final steps of her delivery, and two of the midwives are busy filming the process while one helps her deliver along with Matt. Then they show Jasmine and Matt in bed together with the baby, and it's a sweet scene. In Jasmine's confessional, the producer asks her how she came up with the name Matilda. Jasmine says it was a joke. She used to call Matt Matilda, and that the name Matilda has Matt's name in it. She says during the delivery, Matt was really there for her, so she really trusts him now. Matt does seem happy, saying his daughter is beautiful and that they're blessed, so he seems to be coming around to being a father of a girl. He says when she was born, his heart grew like the Grinch. He was so appallingly lame in the last episode, so it's great to see his evolution here. They cut back to Gino with the lawyer, where the lawyer is explaining that Gino needs to look at the risk and how he would be responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars for the baby since it would legally be considered his. He says there are ways around this issue, such as Gino taking a paternity test, or that Matt could sign an affidavit that he's the father. But that there are time limits, and by law, Gino would need to do this within 3 months of birth. In his confessional, Gino says he thought the birth would be helpful to his case in proving that she used him for a green card, but that for him to be considered the dad is messed up. The lawyer says it takes at least 60 days to get a divorce. However, since there's a minor child involved, the statutory waiting period is now 180 days. So from the time Gino files for divorce, it will take at least 6 months for the divorce to go through. Gino says he's not ready to get divorced yet, and that one of the reasons is he has a lot of investments, so he's waiting for the market to drop since he knows that he would have to split investments 50-50. The lawyer looks at him like, damn, you're stupid. Gino says another reason is immigration, since Jasmine will have to remove conditions from her green card. He says she's on a 2-year probationary card right now, but that he won't jointly sign for it, and the only way she can do it on her own is if she's divorced. So if he divorces her right away, he'll be giving her the green light to get the card. He says he can't have that since he wants her to be held accountable for the betrayal. In his confessional, the lawyer says that when people want to take revenge on somebody, unfortunately, a lot of times they'll use the judicial system for this, and that they're just giving attorneys money to tell them to act the opposite of how they want to act. He says he thinks Gino should be filing for divorce in Michigan yesterday. He explains to Gino that he needs to act within 3 years and that Jasmine could file for divorce in Florida, and if that happens, Gino would need to travel back and forth to Florida. The lawyer explains that the longer Gino waits, the greater the risk he creates for himself. Gino says in his confessional that he now realizes he needs to be the one to file for divorce. To me, Gino looks rough, like he's really been through it, and so I wish he would just let go of his anger since it will probably eat him alive. And it isn't really good for anybody to be that angry. I'm not a huge Jasmine fan, but he needs to just let her, Matt, and Matilda be at this point. Moving on to Darcey and Georgi. They're still in New York for Fashion Week. Darcey explains how Georgi left the night before. She says she thought they could have a nice talk, but Georgi just went right in on her, making her feel she was to blame for everything. She's telling such a lie here because we all saw what really happened. We saw how Georgi tried so hard not to engage in a fight with her, but she insisted. She tells Stacy how Georgi was talking about Bulgaria, and how she speculates that he's thinking about their future together, not involving her. She explains how she got this vibe from him, so clearly these were assumptions she made rather than real statements that Georgi made, and more delusions are happening on Darcey's part. She mentions how Georgi says he misses his family, and she's like, he doesn't think I've been family to him? Stacy says, yes, we have been family, as she speaks for Darcey. It seems to me like Georgi can still have his own family and a wife, just like Darcey is allowed to have a family in her life and a significant other, but I digress. Darcey shows Stacy the text she exchanged with Georgi about the fight. In his text, Georgi says most of the time it seems like she's pretending she cares. Darcey says that this is him projecting, and Stacy's like, yes. Darcey says Georgi will never change, and she starts crying and then screaming, like she's doing this dumb primal screaming release type thing that she always does, and Stacy hugs her. Darcey says in her confessional, you can only repair the cracks so many times, and their relationship is broken. Amen. I hope she leaves that man alone finally. I like Darcey for entertainment purposes, but she's getting on my nerves this season with her absolute lack of awareness around anything outside of herself. She says she got a message from Georgi and that he wants to talk, and she's eager to hear what he has to say. We cut to Georgi at a bar, and then Darcey walks in and dramatically sits next to him, flipping her hair and everything. Darcey asks how he slept last night since he didn't come back to their hotel room, and he says he got a room for himself. He says since Bulgaria, he's had different emotions about everything. He says he realized one of the strongest emotions he had was for her, but he clearly looks pained when he says this, and Darcey can tell that there's more. She asks if they're even together right now and that there need to be serious conversations. Georgie says that's why they're talking right now. You can tell at this moment that Darcey knows what's up, and she starts to break down before he can even continue. She says she doesn't mean to come at him at level 10. He tells her he loves her, but when he saw his sister with her kids and his sister asked if he wanted kids, it hit him that he does want that. Darcey says she knew that this was what he was going to say and nods her head sadly. She asks where he wants to go with this. That's where they leave off, so we'll see what happens. It's hard to watch her in so much pain, and like I said, she could see it coming. I'm sure she's been through this so many times due to her self-sabotage. And in the case of Georgie, Stacy was so integral in making sure the relationship had no chance. Get therapy, Darcey, please. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.